Is it resonating? Are these channels still the right ones? Should we be doing more over here or less over there, or whatever the case may be, so that we know we're spending our own time in the right way? So I totally agree on omnichannel. For some brands, it helps to start with one, get it figured out, move to something else. But ultimately, I think we'd all like to be communicating with an audience in different ways.
Welcome to the Modern Marketing Engine podcast, hosted by Bernie Borges. This is the podcast for the modern marketer who wants to hear from their peers in the trenches and the occasional analyst or rockstar influencer sharing strategies and tactics about what's working in modern marketing. Be sure to listen to the end of each episode for Bernie's summary and takeaways so you can plan your next move in your own modern marketing journey.
Hey there, welcome to episode 248 of the Modern Marketing Engine podcast. I'm Bernie Borges, CMO of Ingresso, and your host. Hey, thanks for listening. My guest on this episode is Stephanie Stahl, General Manager at the Content Marketing Institute. Stephanie, welcome to the Modern Marketing Engine podcast.
Thanks, Bernie. I'm so excited to be episode 248. I'm so happy to be here.
Fantastic. Well, as you know, one of your colleagues, Kathy McPhillips, was episode 206 1 year ago. So thank you for joining me here today. What I want to do is, for my listener who may not be familiar with the Content Marketing Institute, I mean, your brand has really established itself as the authority on all things content marketing. Why don't we begin with a brief either introduction or reintroduction to Content Marketing Institute and your role there as general manager?
Yeah, sure thing. So CMI, we provide education and training, events and consulting and research, all designed to help marketers improve their strategy and their results through great content and storytelling, processes, and the technologies that are all wrapped around that. So whether you're trying to generate demand or raise awareness of your brand, learn about innovative technologies, or network with a really vibrant community, CMI has something for the practitioners as well as the decision makers.
Fantastic. Well, as I mentioned, you've really emerged, the company's really emerged as the leading authority on all things content marketing. And of course, you have a very strong background. The company that you've been with for, I think, 27 years that acquired Content Marketing Institute, you've had many different roles. So let's talk about how you've seen content marketing evolve over the years. And specifically, Stephanie, I'm going to ask you to hone in on what are you seeing in content marketing that's different in B2B versus B2C?
Yeah, I think philosophically, B2B and B2C both have similar experiences these days, and that there's no shortage of content available. We are deluged by content. So the focus for both B2B and B2C has to be now on creating the best content, great content at all times. I mean, that's the standard right now that has to be set. There's just no room for the noise and distractions that come from mediocre content. But looking broadly, sort of broadly in terms of trends for B2C, I think we see a lot of really fantastic examples these days of user-generated content. And companies like REI and Coca-Cola are great examples of that. And speaking broadly about trends in B2B, we're seeing some really fantastic examples of brands using content to take on more of a personality. And in some cases, also using that content to speak to how they care about the greater good, not just me. Look at my products, look at what I can do for you. It's more about solving pain points, looking at the greater good in society. And companies that come to mind are companies like GE, Emerson. There are many that I could mention.
On that note, Stephanie, one thing that I'll add to that is that I think one thing that B2B companies have started to figure out in recent years is the importance of making the human connection, right? So when they're showing their personality and they're speaking to things that are about the greater good, they're really connecting with us at the human level and not just their logo and all the things that they do that are so great, but they're really connecting with us emotionally.
Absolutely. That's perfectly said. That's exactly right. And it really matters. It helps build trust. It's a relationship that a B2B brand can build with an audience in a completely different way, that says, I care about you. I care about what your problems are. I care that you're a human being. And I'm going to give you some really great content that will resonate for you, not just talk about us and our products.
So let's talk a little bit about what's not working. And, it's funny because we, meaning in B2B, have been doing webinars forever, right? We're still doing webinars. Are they still working? Is there anything that's not working in content marketing these days?
On the topic of webinars, they are actually working extremely well. Still for many brands. And I think there's been some innovation along the way too in how the webinars are structured and the length of them and the format and the style and all of that. Some are audio, some are video, some are multiple people, whatever a brand can do to make it the most interesting and the most relevant. But it's actually a very good way for people to take a step back, spend 30 minutes or an hour really learning about a topic. It's still very effective in content marketing. I mean, our research shows that, but I also know, just my own gut knows that this is still a very effective thing. And to be honest, if I were to pick one thing that no longer works, it's the same thing that never worked. And that's like long, boring, pitchy content. It never worked and it never will, whether it's webinar or written or audio or video. And I could probably answer the question about what is working and what isn't working the same way. It really depends on what works for your audience, right? I mean, you've got a great audience who likes to listen to podcasts. So podcasting is right. For some, it's video content is really resonating, say, more than written content. For others, print content may be working better than blogging. And it really comes down to knowing deeply what type of content your audience is craving, with the ultimate goal of having them trust you and rely on you and in the ideal world become obsessed with you. And it kind of goes back to a pretty strong belief around CMI that, content marketing isn't just about getting attention. It's about earning trust and credibility and nurturing a lasting relationship. And the only way to know what's going to work for your audience is to test it out, to ask them, to study it, to measure it, to know what matters most to them. How do they want to hear from you?
What I'll add to that, Stephanie, is that even though I agree with you that it's important to learn what formats your audience likes, I also believe that in most cases, you need some level of omnichannel, meaning in most cases, it's not going to be just one format. It's not going to be just webinars or just email or just case studies or just video or just podcast. You've got to find the right mix because people are different, right? You can have the same audience. I reach marketers with this podcast, and there are marketers out there that may have no interest in listening to a podcast, but they'll read a 1,000-word blog post that's good content. So I think omnichannel is still important, but it does come down to understanding what is relevant and valuable content and then the formats that your audience will consume it in.
Absolutely. Totally agree. I mean, it's why we have a blog. It's why we do a weekly webinar. It's why we do live events. But along the way, we're just very careful to study, is it resonating? Are these channels still the right ones? Should we be doing more over here or less over there or whatever the case may be so that we know we're spending our own time in the right way? So I totally agree on omnichannel. For some brands, it helps to start with one, get it figured out, move to something else. But ultimately, I think we'd all like to be communicating with an audience in different ways.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Content Marketing World annual event. I know that CMI puts on multiple events throughout the year, but Stephanie, CMW, Content Marketing World, is the biggest event of its kind once a year, right after Labor Day in the U.S. in Cleveland, Ohio. 2019 is going to be, the 9th year, I believe, right? I am proud to say that I'm going to maintain my perfect attendance record and we'll be speaking there again this year, privileged to be speaking. So tell us about what's in store for Content Marketing World 2019.
Oh my gosh, it's going to be great. It is going to be great. We've got 4 days of content from brand leaders and industry influencers. And of course, September is a great time to sort of invigorate your marketing team with fresh ideas after the summer months. And, it's also a great time to, a lot of brands will not only come to learn fresh new ideas, but also get validation, for some of the strategies that they've been employing. So that's a good strategy too. But we're so excited. Our theme this year is a major audience.
Love that theme.
It's awesome. And in the artwork and the digital designs that we'll be using will be very much around sort of a circus theme, sort of an old-fashioned circus theme. So it's going to be fun and creative.
Well, knowing how creative your team is, I will share with my listener that I don't remember the year. I'm sure you were there. It was 3, 4, 5 years ago. There was that big, what's the name of that game show that you guys replicated?
Oh, the Hollywood Squares show.
Hollywood Squares, because I was actually in one of them. Yeah. So my listener, picture the Hollywood Squares thing, where you've got 9 people sitting in each one of the squares, and then questions were asked, and there were 2 contestants, and it was the real game, right? It was phenomenal. So I can only picture you're going to have like a full-blown circus there, right?
Well, there'll be no animals. I'll say that. Except we'll probably repeat our what we called Yappy Hour instead of Happy Hour. Last year we had Yappy Hour, and we did bring in some rescue dogs from the Cleveland Kennel, and it was so much fun. It gave attendees just a really nice break to just sit and pet the dogs, snuggle with the dogs, whatever they wanted to. It was really nice. And we were supporting a really, really great charitable organization. So we had a lot of fun with that. So those will be the only animals we'll have. But so no circus animals, but it'll be a lot of fun. And on the serious side, we'll have, 24 tracks. We'll be live streaming from the show floor. We did that last year. It was a live stream. We called it our Chatter Studio. The Cleveland Clinic will be back in partnership with us doing a health summit. And this year, we're also adding a manufacturing summit. We've seen such an increase in the number of attendees from the manufacturing industry that we're working with a really great partner, Cadenas Part Solutions, on a Friday summit that is catered just for that industry. And we're really looking forward to that.
So why don't you then kind of talk through day by day, like first day, I think is either a summit or a series of workshops. Then you have the 2-day general session and then another summit or something to that effect. Why don't you maybe talk through that a little bit?
Yeah, you've got that right. So the first day, which is Tuesday, is our workshop day and our big party that we'll have at the Rock Hall, which is always a lot of fun. And then we'll have 2 days of content, tracks all day, a lot of content. I mean, we are a content marketing world after all. So we will have a lot of content, but lots to choose from. And then the final day, we will have sessions in the morning and then our vertical industry summits in the afternoon. So I mentioned health summit, manufacturing, we'll have financial services, travel and tourism, all sorts of vertical industry summits. So if you are looking to learn and meet up with peers within your industry, that's a great place to be.
Okay. And you said how many speakers altogether across the general session? Well, across the whole event?
Hundreds. a lot of speakers. And we're so happy to have you back and have never missed one. Actually, that's really quite nice. And we always aim to have a nice mix of speakers where relatively half are sort of those who are backed by popular demand, like yourself, and those who are first-time speakers. We like to introduce our audience to the fresh new blood too. So we're excited about that.
Yeah. Well, actually, I want to do a little bit of a plug for my session because it's highly relevant to, I think, anyone listening to this podcast. The title of my session is Why You Need Content for Effective Sales Enablement. And I'm actually partnering with Celeste Lunsford. And Celeste is the Chief Research Officer at CSO Insights, which is the research division of Miller Heiman Group. And she, like you, has been with the company for quite a while and is very established, very well known within that world. So I'm really excited to partner with her and talk about why content is needed for effective sales enablement. So really excited about that.
Fantastic. You're going to pack the room, I'm sure. This is such a hot topic right now, and people are clamoring to learn more. So really excited about your session.
Yep. Now, I know you get an international audience, so why don't you speak to my listener about the types of people that you generally see attend? And by types, what I mean is like their role and function within an organization.
Yeah, we do have quite an international audience. I think last year we had attendees from about 60 some different countries, which was fantastic. We love to have everyone converge on Cleveland, Ohio in September. And we have a nice mix of both B2B and B2C marketing practitioners, demand gen specialists, SEO specialists, chief content officers, CMOs, anyone who is involved in either content creation, content strategy, content distribution, or promotion. We kind of have a nice mix of people with those titles. And we find too, a lot of brands will bring their team because they want their SEO specialists to be able to go to the SEO track, and they want their content creators to go to content creation track. So, we try to cover all of the stages that are involved in a content marketing strategy.
Mm-hmm. One thing that you also do really well, in addition to awesome content that is highly, highly valuable to all attendees, you also mix in some fun events, both during the day, but also in the evening. So why don't you give us a little preview to the extent that you can? We're going to publish this in early May 2019, still a few months before the event, plenty of time for people to register. So give us a little preview, Stephanie, of what's the fun activities that are planned.
We do have a lot of fun at this show, and we keep people busy all day and into the evening. But that fun aspect is critical, right? We want people to, have time to network. We want people to have time to have fun. We want them to see the city. We want them to experience places around the area. And so we will be having our big kickoff party at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Again, it's a super fun place. If you've never been, I know you have, Bernie, but if any of your listeners have never been, it is such a fun place to visit. And every year, new installations come in as new inductees come into the Rock Hall. So that's a lot of fun. I usually go straight to the U2, David Bowie area, but there's something for everyone there. And then on Wednesday, we're planning something really fun at a place in the Flats area of Cleveland called Punch Bowl Social. And it is full of retro games, fun games, great food, multiple bars, a big patio on the upper level, which overlooks the lake. It's a really fun place to be. It's an easy place to have conversations, and we're pretty excited about that this year.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Well, before we get to my summary, I do want to let my listener know that we have a nice little discount code that is available for the Modern Marketing Engine podcast listener, and that is very simply MME for Modern Marketing Engine 100. That's MME 100. So that's a $100 savings on registration. Of course, that's available at contentmarketingworld.com. So, Stephanie, we are at the point in the podcast where I am going to kind of recap what we discussed, and then I'll ask you to elaborate on anything you'd like to elaborate on as a closing thought, and then we'll ask you for your social contact information, and we'll call it a wrap.
All right.
So we opened our conversation with a little bit of a brief history of Content Marketing Institute. You are the preeminent authority on all things content marketing. You provide education, training, events, research, consulting, and really you help brands, individuals at brands, develop their strategy, develop their results, and really all things around content marketing practices, whether they're focused on awareness, lead gen, etc. You have a daily blog, you have a Chief Content Officer magazine, you've got multiple events, and of course, we've got the capstone event, Content Marketing World, which we talked about, and we'll talk a little bit more about here in the summary. You are the head honcho. You are the general manager of Content Marketing Institute. You really work with an amazing team to put on all of these wonderful services. And so with your own background, having spent 27 years at the company that owns Content Marketing Institute, you've seen the industry evolve from media, traditional media, to custom content. and really gives you terrific background to run the Content Marketing Institute. And that kind of brought us to what you've experienced in the evolution of content marketing and how it's evolved. I asked you the question, how is B2B and B2C content marketing different? And I loved your answer. You said philosophically, they're very, very similar. The ultimate goal is really to attract and engage and build a loyal audience so that they'll trust you. However, the challenge is that there's so much content out there that really it has to be about producing great content all the time. You referenced a couple of trends. You said there are some brands, B2C brands, that are doing a really nice job of just building that trust factor and connecting with their audience. And you mentioned some brands like REI and Coca-Cola. And on the B2B side, you said a trend that you're seeing is that they're really showing their personality and they're speaking to us individually as humans and really showing how they care about us as people and sort of the greater good, if you will. You referenced brands like GE and Emerson, just to name two. And so we also talked a little bit about how webinars are still working and people are kind of making them more interesting. And one of the ways to do that is through video, but again, making that human connection. And when I asked you what's no longer working, you said, hey, the same thing that's always never worked, and that's long and boring, pitchy content. It's really about delivering relevant and quality content that makes a great connection and value to the audience. And so whether it's audio or video or print, it really doesn't matter. We have to know our audience and we have to really deliver content that earns trust with them over the long haul. We also talked about the need to have an omni-channel approach and really understand which channels are performing best. And if I was to say that a little bit differently, which channels are best suited for the audience that we're trying to reach that works for them. And then we talked about my favorite event, the Content Marketing World event, the biggest event of its kind focused on content marketing in 2019. It'll be the 9th year, September 3rd through the 6th, 2019 in beautiful downtown Cleveland, Ohio. The theme this year, Stephanie, amaze your audience. Love it. You're going to have a circus theme. You've got 24 tracks spread across 2 days of general sessions. On the first day, it's workshops. Then you've got the general sessions for 2 days. Then day 3, you said you've got mornings of more sessions and then vertical summits in the afternoon. That includes a health summit and a manufacturing summit. And that you're expecting last year anyway, you had 60 countries represented. And you had a lot of mix between B2B and B2C. Company or people from companies that range in role and function all the way from the chief marketing officer to anybody on their staff responsible for content production, demand generation, strategy, promotion. And you mentioned that some companies actually bring their entire team. And of course, those are companies that have been there before and they know the value of having their team at the event. And then in terms of what's in store for 2019 from a fun standpoint, of course, you said you're going to kick off the event once again at the evening opening night reception at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in beautiful Cleveland. It's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, as if like no matter where you live in the world, if you want to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you go to Cleveland, Ohio for that. And then you've got the Wednesday night party that is going to be at the Punch Bowl Social. And you said it's in the Flats area of downtown Cleveland. It's going to be patio food, games, fun, and just easy to talk and network and have a great time. I can't wait. Like I said, it's the 9th year. I'm going to maintain my perfect attendance record. And then one more plug for my session on why you need content for sales, effective sales enablement, where I'm partnering with Celeste Lunsford, Chief Research Officer at CSO Insights, the research division of Miller Heiman Group. So, Stephanie, that's my summary. Is there anything that you would like to add?
That is a fantastic summary. Fantastic. We're planning 4 great days of content. We'd love to have people join us in Cleveland. If you can't join us in Cleveland, we've got plenty of content and resources available on our website. If you're interested in learning more about improving your own content marketing strategies, our sort of goal, when people leave our event is that they will have a notebook full or a brain full or a laptop full of really practical ideas to take back to the office on Monday to share with their teams, or they will have a whole bunch of inspiration that helps them start thinking about new ways to refine their strategies or innovate and grow. So that's our hope.
I think you can pretty much guarantee that. just speaking from personal experience. And I do want to repeat, Stephanie, for my listener, that there's a $100 savings available using the discount code MME, short for Modern Marketing Engine Podcast. There's no P in it, though. So it's MME 100. And that is a discount code for $100 savings. And so, Stephanie, where can my listener connect with you online to follow you and all the stuff you've got, great stuff you've got going on at Content Marketing Institute?
Yeah, I'm Stephanie Stahl on LinkedIn, and my Twitter handle is @EditorStahl. Would love to connect with anyone there.
Fantastic. And of course, the website is contentmarketingworld.com. And Stephanie, on that note, I want to thank you so much for joining me here today on this episode of the Modern Marketing Engine Podcast.
Thanks so much, Bernie. So happy to be here today.
This wraps up another inspiring episode of the Modern Marketing Engine Podcast. If you want to share this podcast with a friend, let them know that we're available on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Podcasts. And we love 5-star reviews. If you are not subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast player so you don't miss an episode. You can read the show notes for each episode at bengresso.com. While you're there, sign up to receive the show notes delivered to your inbox through our weekly alerts. And be sure to also check out our Selling with Social podcast hosted by Bengresso CEO Mario Martinez Jr. Again, you'll find our show notes at bengresso.com. And that's one S in Bengresso. Tune in again next week when Bernie Borges brings you another inspiring interview to help you thrive on your modern marketing journey.